For me, it was a massive lesson to not let fear and doubt dictate your journey, your life, your career, all of it. So we often think, especially getting into the workforce, that we have to find our place in the world. That's not true. You have to make your place in the world.
I would just like to provide a land acknowledgement because all of Sheridan's campuses reside on traditional territory that has been and still is a part of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis, and the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation. Since time immemorial, numerous Indigenous nations and Indigenous people have lived and passed through this territory. We would like to acknowledge that this territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the Two Row Wampum Treaty, which emphasize the importance of joint stewardship, respectful relationships, and peace. Sheridan affirms the collective responsibility that to honor and respect those who have passed, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be working and living on this land. Well, I would like to, again, for all of you that have joined us today, we wanted to give you all a little treat and a present of a $20 Uber Eats gift card so you can get some lunch, maybe support some local businesses in your area. So all you have to do is fill the form that has just been given in the chat, and we will get those gift cards to you shortly. Also, for each of you that are here, I'm really happy because $10 for each participant will be going to Rainbow Railroad that helps, that is founded in Toronto and helps a lot of LGBTQ members all around the world. Now it's time to get started. First, we have some general questions for everyone, all of our panelists. I would like to introduce each of them. First, I would like to start off with Terrence. Terrence, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Terrence Rodriguez. I am the program coordinator and founder of a program called Rex Pride. We started up in 2012 as just a grassroots community space out of pocket for pizza and bus fare. It grew from there. Now we are under the umbrella of our Rexo Community Health Center, under their Youth and Family Services Department. So we do peer support programming. Our core programming is primarily art-based. We also do stuff within the school, help with GSAs. We do a lot of community engagement like this or trainings, and we sit on a few committees. Like, what are we on? Toronto Police Services Committee, the TDSB, and the City of Toronto. So, oh, and by the way, I'm trans. Female to male. Hey, that's a bit about me. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Terrence. Julia, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Julia Bertola. I'm currently the founder of Caledon Pride. My pronouns are she, her. Yeah, I actually graduated in 2019 from Sheridan with my bachelor's of film and television. And I am actually currently coming back to Sheridan for my social service worker diploma. But a little bit about Caledon Pride. We operate in the Caledons, kind of reaching different wards of Caledon, like Bolton, Caledon East. And we just work to promote Pride with different organizations who are already there. And the idea is that we connect them together so that during Pride Month or during past the month of Pride, that there can be different different programming. And we also advocate for more services in Caledon because it's quite not great at the moment, just because there's nothing really available unless you have to drive down to Mississauga or Brampton. So we're working to, bring more specialists in, support more, trans healthcare, and definitely bring more programming and advocacy to Caledon.
Oh, awesome. Donnie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Pride Month. My name is Donnie Baleta. I am a former graduate at Sheridan College, both interior decorating and architectural technologist. I am an architectural designer now. And I used to do drag performance in Toronto. I still do from time to time when I get invited for special events. I enjoy pretty much participating in the community activities, especially I used to live in downtown Toronto. Yeah, so I'm always excited to participate in this kind of events. Thank you.
Thank you, Donnie. And last but not least, Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Adam Ball. I'm the Director of Client Service at Taxi Canada, an ad shop. I graduated in '09 from the advertising program. Pronouns he, him. I am a gay male, gay and proud. Happy Pride. Basically, I manage all the client relations for about 27 national/global clients. Things like Canadian Tire, Audi, Volkswagen, Canada Life, so some interesting things. Happy to be here, happy to meet everyone, and excited to get chatting.
Awesome. So let's start off with some questions. This is one question I love as a student to know from past alumni and just everyone who have made it past the post-secondary institution life. What is one skill that you believe Sheridan students should consider developing before entering their professional lives? So Adam, would you like to start off?
Sure. I mean, I thought a lot about this because, I mean, there's different kind of vocations here and stuff. I think really the thing that should kind of be the through line between like post-secondary life and getting into the work field is working hard. It might sound really kind of elementary. And I think the one thing that I recognize, and I run kind of internship programs for 3 different offices, is the thing that really sets people apart is their like passion to show up and energy in kind of doing the work. I work in a field that is a lot of like EQ-based relationship, one-to-one kind of connection-based work. And so sometimes it's not really about the hard skills as much as it is about soft skills, kind of getting to know people, making the right connections and meaningful connections, and showing up and working hard every day. It might, like I said, it might seem like a real basic thing that like a parent might say to you, but I think it is more true than ever, especially when kind of younger generations get hit with the entitlement stick pretty quickly. It's the one thing to make sure that you're kind of combating before it's brought up to you. So that would be my take.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Julia, what do you think is one skill?
Well, I think because I'm not technically in the workforce right now, but one skill that I think, before you leave, post-secondary, knowing your value, I think, especially as like a volunteer and especially as like you're going into like with film and television, everything was internships, right? And so the system basically uses you as kind of free labor for sometimes. And especially with Caledon Pride, like I volunteer for this. I never expected for this to kind of go quite anywhere, but it gets to a point where like not so much dealing with like community, like local businesses and local people that you're not really like, they really give back to you like as much as you're giving to them, which is their time, their energy, their effort. But especially when you're interacting with a larger kind of corporation, local government, kind of places who have the budget and who have the means, who understand the system, don't let them take advantage of you, because that's kind of the situation where even I'm at, where it feels like kind of Pride Month is where they let us out to kind of like, yeah, you can do your little dance and we'll support you. Good job. It's great. But then it's kind of sitting there like, well, why aren't you not necessarily paying me, but paying the people who are working? Like we had a videographer that, did the entire Pride flag raising ceremony. That came out of our pocket instead of the town who has much more of a budget than we do. So, just making sure that you know how to value yourself and to say that like the time and effort that you put into this and other people's time and effort is worth a lot. Like it's great that you want to volunteer, but don't let these people go around thinking that they can just take advantage of you and then not really do anything.
Amen. Wow. All
yeah,
right.
It's definitely hard to like get that confidence, but like once you get that confidence, like learn it in college where it's kind of a safer kind of place to do that. But like damn, when you go out there and you're more confident, you will get, what you want, and, it'll be a lot better.
Well, Donnie, do you have anything to follow up after that?
Yeah, I think you just have to be determined to what your goal is. And I think that's one thing that I have learned. I came here as an immigrant to Canada, and knowing that I have no back sometimes, like my parents are like far away from me, my family. I came as by myself as well. So I have to be focused to what is my goal to come here. I did not start school right away, so I had to have any gigs out there that I could get, as I was going to call the hustle. I've learned how to do makeup without even going to school and stuff like that, but I had to present to the people that I know how to do it. I do photography, I do event planning, all of those things that I had to come up with just to tell everybody that, I could do all of that. But you know what? If you have that sort of determination, you can come through. And I always say that to any friends or family friends or anybody that I know that they're struggling to start with their career and everything. Always, always like focus and be determined that you're gonna get there. That's always my suggestion.
Yeah. Wow. Terrence, last but not least.
It's funny because it kind of wraps in everyone, but also chiming a lot on Donnie. For me, it was a massive lesson to not let fear and doubt dictate your journey, your life, your career, all of it. So we often think, especially getting into the workforce, that we have to find our place in the world. That's not true. You have to make your place in the world. So if you find a place that already exists and you want to fit in there, sit your little bum down, great, you're good. If you don't see it and you want to make it, then make it. But don't let fear or doubt stop you. If you're not too sure if you can do something, if you're allowed to do something, if you have the capability to do something, if it's even possible, try it. The worst happens is that it doesn't work. Okay, you learn things. Don't be scared to put that effort, to put it out there in the universe, to see, like, talk to somebody about this idea, and then maybe that person will be like, oh yeah, I can help you with that. You never know unless you put it out there. So don't be scared to ask, and don't be scared to put it out there, because I'm pretty sure you'll be quite surprised what comes back to you.
Wow. This is question number 1, and I'm already loving everything that's being said. Well, one more question for the group. And in the past, I would say, decade, we've seen a lot more assistance from corporations when it comes to Pride Month, where they'll do different product launches in support of Pride, or they'll partner with a local organization that helps the LGBTQ plus 2S community, just everyone. And I wanted to ask all 4 of you, do you believe that corporations are doing enough to support the community? And what do you believe they're doing well? And what's one thing you think they can improve on? So I'll start off with Donnie.
In my experience, back in the time that I used to perform in Toronto, we used to get any sponsors for any company. This is back early 2000s for a float or a performance in any stage of Toronto. And I remember this, that everybody who wants to become, like every corporation that wanted to participate, they have to be I would call it screen or something. Like they have, like the corporation has to be a big company and has to have their logo bigger than the Pride itself, whatever they're promoting. So for me at the time, it doesn't bother me, but now I'm realizing, I think, I'm glad that some of them are also being open-minded, like those big corporations. They're accepting the community to their work environment. But the thing that I remember is that they only participate because they can get something with it, and I always think that was wrong, because we are being exposed all over there, and they're also waving their flag to say that this is a company that's supporting us. They're not really out there to say, okay, you have to you present us as a representative to your commercial or anything. Nowadays, you can see a little bit here and there. You can see in TV that, you know, corporations are showing gay couples or you know, LGBTQ plus participant to the commercial, but most of the time, like, I wish they could explore more of that. You know, it could go farther than that.
Yeah.
I think that's just my my thought.
It's a good thought. I'll give you that. Terrence, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I've met folks who are working within these companies that are from the community, and they're usually the main advocates within their company to get things moving, to get them happening. Then the company tends to see it as, okay, yeah, you know, philanthropy, great, feel good, but we make some money at the same time. Awesome. And it's like an ends to a means, but also at the same time, they could do lots more. So for example, Pride, what do you see? Massive bank, TD, right? Everybody knows TD. Everybody knows their dancers. You know, like their Pride. Listen, I'll tell you, TD, if you come to my area, which is basically north of Etobicoke, by the airport area, and you check out a TD bank during Pride, you will not find any Pride colors in their banks. But you'll see them downtown. Because my neighborhood is a neighborhood that there's a lot of different cultures, a lot of newcomers, there's socioeconomic issues, there's violence issues, and there's a massive safety issue. And there's this, like, just an entire community where it's extremely homophobic and transphobic. And so companies aren't doing anything to raise any kind of visibility and awareness in these neighborhoods because for them, it's not financially viable. If they do, then the people in the community are less likely to go and utilize their service. So they don't. And that's when you really get challenged. In the moments when you have something to risk, do you still do what's right? And what I find, companies don't. That's really what I find, Tess. So if I find a company that it will still take the risk, I will support you. But if it's just convenient for you, I don't support you.
Wow. And I was reading the chat while you were speaking, and I agree with Sydney wholeheartedly. They said visibility is important, and it doesn't matter what neighborhood you are in. You still matter. With that being said, Julia.
I am a full believer in using the system for my own benefits. And when I say my own benefits, I mean bringing more pride to, you know, my community. Yeah, with like corporations. And when I say like corporations, I mean like, yeah, the big ones, like the banks, you know, huge franchises that really, you don't have like a face to the place, you know? I don't, like, that's the reason why I really don't enjoy like the Pride Parade at Toronto. That and like big crowds, like, definitely don't mix with me. But you know, you don't know about the kind of shady stuff that they're doing. And it's, you know, when they say, oh, we're going to give this money to this, and you're like, oh, that's great, but you got to do more research, because they also gave money. This was more in the States that they came out with a huge list. They gave money to you know, members of Congress who supported conversion therapy, who were anti-LGBT, so many different things. So you're like, oh, well, yeah, they're sending money, but maybe you shouldn't send money to the people who are making decisions and who think that being, you know, being a part of the LGBT is wrong, or there's something wrong with you. So with giant corporations, I'm like, put your money where your mouth is, you know, like, you can only celebrate the feeling with large corporations. I feel like you can only celebrate pride if you have evidence. And that's what I've always preached, especially to people in Caledon. So like example, like for the, you know, the OPP, the with things going around, especially with our flag raising, you know, asking them not to participate just because. I'm like, well, what have you done within the year that proves that you're an ally and that you're doing more? You know, that's who I think that should be celebrating pride, and that's what we should be promoting. So that way, you know, you just have to hold these people accountable, and don't, it's like, and I want to say, I want to support the LGBT folks who do work within these corporations, because it's not their fault. This is, you know, they need to have their own jobs. They need to have their own, you know, their money to live. But I support them, but definitely not the huge corporations that do take advantage of them.
Yeah, shame. And finally, because I'm really intrigued by your response to this, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, this literally is my job. This is the thing that, like, I consult on on a regular basis, and I work with brands that have been around for 100 years and brands that have been around for 6 months. I mean, I literally say the thing that Julia said, which is like, if you're going to celebrate Pride, what have you done in the last year? And it's a really good way to measure just in an honest way, especially with marketing teams who, of course, and Julia said it really well, people have jobs, right? So like they have bosses and stakeholders and all that good stuff. The capitalism part of this equation is really real. And I think some brands do a good job. The measuring stick for me is, if you're going to make money, like, you also have to give money in that space. So there are a lot of foundations that are really operating on the consumer funds of things that they have done. So stuff like that is okay with me if it brings visibility and it brings kind of our kind of general mission, so to speak, to the forefront. The one thing that is like the double-edged sword is, a lot of brands and advertising and marketing are the things that have been catalysts for visibility. And so when we talk about banks, it's actually one of the best examples globally for where you've actually seen LGBTQ representation first in terms of popular culture. And it's a weird kind of balance that we play, which is like, we want to make sure the receipts are equal and everything makes sense. But from a representation standpoint, there are really big corporations that have normalized a lot of kind of representation and visibility. Lastly, the thing that I always say to clients is, if you operate there, you have to be reflective of the place that you operate. So I like what Terrence said about kind of his area, and I agree. If you're good enough to kind of have that capitalistic function of your business operate in your area, and you're not, excuse me, representing every single one of your customers, it's not good enough, right? So that to me is like the balance equation. I would say generally, I would like, if we didn't have brands pushing an agenda, the funding that they put behind it wouldn't be matched in any other way. So there's a good part in that. But in terms of like, can they do more? Can they do better? 100%.
Now I'm gonna give you a follow-up question, because you have mentioned in your introduction you've worked with major companies like Canadian Tire, Audi, Fido, the Canadian Mental Health Association. Where do you think advertising for Pride will go in the next 10 years?
I think you're going to find it be a little more authentic and meaningful to the brand. I think programming will be a little more always on than just kind of, focused on Pride Month or whatever. I will say the one cool thing that has happened, and whether it be from like Black Lives Matter movements or LGBTQ movements, is, and a lot of people say they're performative, but the assembly of boards, the assembly of different stakeholder groups to actually hold accountability for activity of brands. I think what I would like to see brands do is actually create with the people that have lived experience. So the one hard thing, and I review a ton of creative work as well, is you can really tell when the storytelling is coming from people that don't have lived experience. So I think that's one of the things, especially along with visibility, that will change, is really seeing authentic, meaningful, realistic stories. I always say, like, in terms of kind of our queer group, gay men, and I'm one of them, is a really privileged group, right? Because that's the people that you see plastered on the posters, and that's what's like the most kind of common in that space. And I think you need to get more nuanced stories, in that queer space that are a little so much more underrepresented than the ones people are used to, which is like, people understand gayness, people understand lesbians, and I think we need to move down that spectrum a little faster than we are currently.
Thank you. Wow. Donnie, now I have a question for you. A little going in a different way. There's a common concern for the Gen Z age group where the housing market is going insane and it's becoming more and more unattainable for us to buy a home, where we have to result in renting instead of being able to hold the keys and say, this is mine. With this inflated housing market, what are your thoughts on how architectural designers can really build structures to accommodate for their kinds of budgets?
I always think of this because I also came from that time when I graduated, I have nothing in my pocket. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm gonna land a job right away, even though I had a co-op right when I got out of school. But I always have in my, I guess, instinct that, if I have a little, a little bit backup here, doing makeup, working for handing flyers out there for a club, or go to working at McDonald's is a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that and nothing to be ashamed about it. Or cleaning somebody else's apartment. I've done all of that, like I told one of my friends, Conda, as she was a little messy, and I said, I'm like, can I clean your house? Like I did that. I think that was one thing that I had always in my back of my head. I'd never been shy to what I work, like my work where I came from, and also what I have done, because I always have to have money in my pocket. And with that, I learned how to save. And then I never had right away my own place. I save. I always told my friend also was like, do RSP, or save money bank right away, even if you have a little bit of money here and there. I know some people say, well, that's impossible to do that because every situation is not the same. But always, I guess you can't be there if you don't really have money, unless your parents is rich and then they give it to you, then good for you. At the end of the day, you will probably have a nice condo somewhere where close to you, you're gonna end up working. So for me, I had to save a lot of money. And then when I got my place, I did the hand-me-down, of course. Everybody is very helpful, and I take that. And I'm very creative in that way. So whatever is places that I lived in, I always made sure that it is polished. I always have decorated. So like little things, you could go like to what do you call this? A garage sale, and you can find some little knickknacks there that you could put it into your place and be proud about it. I always say be proud about that. And in terms of, again, this inflated housing market, we can't do anything about it because, again, we're just all young people that is starting up our career, and we don't have that much money. So I don't know what to say, but you always have to have a backup and save money. At the end of the day, you will obtain what you're dreaming for. I have my own condo now. I'm so happy. I actually have to move to Burlington. That was one thing about my choice, to choose a place where it's close enough to work downtown, because I had to commute downtown. Luckily, these days we're working remotely, but I had to make the sacrifice, and it does really help to everybody. And yeah, that's just my suggestion. Make sure that you save at the beginning, and then when you have that enough money, you can borrow from your RSP, buy a place, invest your money, and you will have, and you'll have that pride. Whatever you hard works that you've gone through, your schooling, your lifestyle, whatever it is, you will end up with that prize that at the end of the day you will say, oh yeah, this is mine. Okay, so that's just my thought.
And that was a great thought, as it was.
Thank you.
And for Julia, I'm going to give you a little background about myself. I am a business student through and through. And one of the things I've learned in business school was the best kind of businesses that come up is when you find a void in your market. And with the story that you've given about Caledon Pride, it feels like it's the exact same way. You found that void, that there wasn't any kind of representation in the Caledon community, and you created it. So my question to you is, what leadership skills have you acquired to create the impact that fills the void in your community?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I use today, I definitely learned from like my past in not only my program, but actually working with SSU. Because before I left, I was the awareness coordinator. And it was kind of like what I was doing for now with Caledon Pride, which is just, putting on these events. And like you said, like there was definitely like a void in Caledon. And Caledon, for people who think like it's a part of Peel. So like it's part of Brampton, Mississauga. So it's not like this like far away, like it's Barrie, like where it's completely far away and not even like in connection to everything. But when you're living in these rural areas, it really does feel like you're disconnected from a lot of places. And my experience growing up there, if you don't have a car or if you are not completely out and have supportive parents, it's very hard to be yourself and to go out to events where you can meet like-minded people or go to programs. So I definitely found that void, and that's why I realized that even though I'm not particularly good at public speaking, being the public leader, being the face, I'm not necessarily comfortable with that. If you would believe, I have major social anxiety, and but there was just a lot of other people in Caledon that they also are suffering from the same way, but at this moment they can't really push themselves up, and that's okay, because not every LGBT person is supposed to be an advocate or an educator. They're just people. So I've kind of put myself in that role. Definitely a lot of like pushing and getting out of your comfort zone, which like I did. I'm still not good at public speaking. Like I just did one of our events, and it is just choppy and it is not great, but it's definitely like you do it, you kind of laugh about it, and you just learn that you need to be that leader for people. Because I've had the thing that pushes me to be that leader for my community and fill that void is people that coming up to me and people from my high school messaging me on Facebook being like, oh, thank you for doing this, you're just right, like they had the exact same experiences I had. So that's what's been kind of keeping me going. And then the other thing is just learning to be patient, I think, as a leader, because a lot of the times you're dealing with organizations or corporations that don't get it. And, you kind of have to push them to be like, I'm sorry, but you have to, be educated. You have to be in the know if you're going to be this kind of local community leader. So I think it's about being patient with them and understanding that this is new and that they've heard horror stories of like, oh, I heard someone yell at, my sister went to a bar and someone yelled at her for getting this pronouns. And those are just horror stories that people hear that, are not the situations. And you're like, it's okay. Let's just learn this together. It's not scary. No one's going to yell at you if you mess up, but you have to try and you have to do this. So definitely patience and understanding where maybe people are coming from, even if they're kind of ignorant about it. Like definitely like schools, I like high schools mostly, that are very strict and regulated, that they can't have these pride programming, and it's about like making their experience with you enjoyable. Like it sucks, like you shouldn't have to cater to them, especially if you're trying to do something that's right, but it's the only way that you're going to get things done. And that's the most important part, is not to inflate your own ego. It's not to be like, well, I kicked them in the butt and I told them that we hate them, but then they're never going to talk to you again, and then they're going to have terrible instances where they're like, oh, we don't want to talk to those people because they're going to yell at us. It sucks because you want to yell at them, but you have to be that patient kind of, okay, like let me try to do this so that you can create that long-term change in your community.
And sorry, can I just comment?
Yeah.
This has been my only second meeting with Julia, and the one thing from a leadership thing, and this is just me giving you kudos, your approachability is the thing for me that's like off the charts. You know what I mean? I think like when people look at leaders, they're like, it's like the the thing people picture is this like really powerful whatever. And I think the best part of you, and this is the second time we've interacted, is just like the disarming quality about you, the ability to talk to you from like a human to human, like on a human to human level, I think is like the superpower for you, just observationally. So anyway.
Thank you so much, because I think everyone hates me, but that's the mental illness, right? So you go through life and you're like going through everything thinking that like, because I don't know what I'm doing, you know, per se is going to be good for everyone. So I try to put myself out there to people, because since I suffer from my own mental illness, I understand how scary it is to go talk to people and to, you know, interact with them. So thank you for just, you know, acknowledging that, because a lot of people don't, because interactions with me are just normal and people have a pleasant time, but then I'm overthinking everything. So, and that's the other thing, that you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And, you know, like I'm overly friendly, I'm trying to be funny just so that people feel more comfortable in their spaces, and that they can feel like, because then they, you know, they say, well, I did have a problem with this and I had a problem with that. And I'm like, great, we're figuring this out. We're going to do this together, you know, and then people feel so much more comfortable. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Also, I don't believe you with the whole unable to public speak, because that was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
If you go back to like one of SSU's like training, SSU 101, I stuttered on stage for like a good 5 minutes. Everyone was so nice, they clapped for me, but it was definitely a horror part of me that I'm like, and then so those experiences that you have with like public speaking that go totally terrible, you can choose, kind of like what Karen says about fear, letting you choose. Like I can have a bad experience and then I can choose, I'm never going to do that again. But then what I'm not really helping, and I'm not really helping that long-term change. So I have to just keep doing it over and over and over again, even if I don't want to, you know, help out. And that's how I can community. That's how I can like leave something good in my community, is being that person that makes a fool of themselves sometimes on public speaking, just so that people feel more confident.
Thank you. And finally, one last question for Terrence. Coming into this event, and I've said this to you, I have done so much research about you, because with all the sports that you've done, it's incredible. It's wonderful. And I also read a little bit about your story, and that's one of the first things I want to ask. I was hoping that we would be able to share your story of where you were when you first wanted to express yourself as a transgender male to where you are today. And there's experiences and obstacles and emotional turmoil often lead to great achievements. So what skills have you learned from those experiences that helped you to, in your day-to-day life, to help others live the life that they want to have?
I find we are our worst critics. So, I mean, I'm kind of go work backwards answering that first question. We tend to be a lot more accepting to everyone else than we are to ourselves. And so I was always very supportive and accepting of everyone else. But when it came to myself, I always had these exceptions for myself. Like, no, you're not allowed that. Or, no, you can't find happiness. You're different. Or you're, you know, whatever. So just realize that you are no different than anyone else in this universe. And so what's true for somebody else is true for you. So if you're going to give someone encouragement and say, you know what, you're worthy of love, you're capable of doing this, you receive the exact same advice as what you're giving. And remember to give that to yourself. But as for my journey, well, that's a whole long, I'm 37 years old. I just outed myself in my age. Anyways, I was that generation, if you watched Disclosure, that grew up with the Jerry Springer, Murray Povich, Boys Don't Cry, whatever. And so before even knowing the word, I just said, Mom, why didn't you make me a boy at a very young age? It wasn't until later on when I watched Boys Don't Cry that I realized that, oh, that's me. But at that point, it was in my teens, I just came out with my sexuality, dealing with losing half my family, dealing with a lot of issues within my school and neighborhood. There was a lot going on. So I was like, I ain't even going to touch this because that's just terrifying. So it wasn't until my early 20s, my friend actually posed the question how I felt about my gender. Legit, just like that. And I was just like, why do you have to ask me that question? So that's when I just started. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll deal with this. All right, I'll go back to therapy. I highly recommend therapy to any and everyone. It's so useful. So I just worked through it at that point, and that process was very long. And I remember telling my therapist, I have all the respect for all the trans people in the world, but for some reason, when I think of myself as a trans person, I see myself as a freak of nature. That was just what was ingrained in me, that I had to work out of me. I had to exercise those demons, and that took some time. But I got to that point. But a lot of push and pull. My major issues with being trans is, I can deal with family, I can deal with society, I can deal with judgments, because I dealt with that earlier with the whole sexuality thing. So now it's just like, whatever, brush it off. I don't care. I can even deal with the fear. Like, I had moments in neighborhoods I grew up with. I had guys following me home, sexual harassment, a lot of instances of that, and I can deal with that. That's part of like, I seem like so scary when you meet me in person. Until you get to know me, then you're like, oh, you're so cute and cuddly. I'm like, yeah, but if you don't know me, I'm gonna terrify you. But the whole healthcare system, that was huge. When I came out, it was not covered. It was delisted by Mike Harris, the conservative government. So I was terrified because I come from a single mom household in poverty. She made $28,000 a year taking care of us. I had no work. I couldn't afford how much for the surgeries. I was terrified how I'm like, light at the end of the tunnel. There was light. There was no hope. Then when it got relisted, I was like, yes! Had to go through CAMH. I went to see 6 psychologists in a year to answer all the same questions to all of them, and then do a final panel interview with those 6 psychologists before I got approval. Yes, you can get surgery. It was ridiculous. System's way better now. It could still improve. The system is fat phobic. Dealing with the healthcare system. So we're talking about my own transition. I've only had my hysterectomy. I haven't had my chest surgery or my bottom surgery, and I've been trying to do it since my early 20s. But because I'm overweight, your BMI is 35 or higher, the cosmetic surgeons won't do it, and it's not regulated by the government or forced. So this is a major issue even just within the trans community, and something I'm still trying to advocate for. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm trying the keto diet, have some ups and downs, but it's something within the system that needs to change. So working with my doctor and other doctors, trying to advocate, people in Canada, because it's across the board. So, but in the nature of like life, work, I think the healthcare system has been the most challenging thing. As for society, you kind of just, people who are from the community, when we're able to find that profit and find the support, you learn to try to dismiss it. And then when it comes to doing the work I do, I used all that experience, being from Rexdale, born and raised, going through all those experiences at school and walking the neighborhood and all that. Living in poverty, like I totally chime in on Donnie, like working your butt off. My mom, working in factories her whole life. I had to work my butt off every little job I could find. I had to give my check to the family, you have to. And so that learning to hustle at a very young age really instilled that within me. So now anytime I see an opportunity, I take it. If I see something that could be an opportunity and my mind's like, oh, wait a minute, this could work for that, I will take it. That's why I say, like, put it out there, because you never really know. Anything could flourish from anything. Like, even just doing this panel. How did we connect? Like, we know each other, like a couple of years ago doing this, you never know what's going to come around. So just the more you put out, the more you live life, the more you work off of your passions and your dreams, the more it'll come back to you. And that's what I use. I use my passion. That's why I do what I do, because I'm trans, I'm from Rexdale. So this is the work I do because I know what it's like and it needs to change. The issues I faced when I was a kid should not be happening now.